Anele, for your time, and apologies for keeping you waiting. Let's just take you back a moment to just a few moments ago, Nelson Chamisa's address there in Harare from the MDC Alliance, accusing ZANU-PF of trying to steal the elections, and in fact accusing the Electoral Commission of being in cahoots with the governing party. What's your response to what was said at that media briefing just a short while ago?
Good afternoon, Michelle, and to your listeners. It's a very interesting time in the country. As you can see, the tempers are rising, the competition is very high. But just to capture what the MDC president was speaking about, the current sitting president of the country is a constitutional being. He has a responsibility to uphold the constitution. ZEC itself has got an obligation to make sure that the elections are free and fair, and the ballots are done according to what is required by law. So based on that, if those are the issues that are currently on the table, they have to be dealt with accordingly. Somehow, to a certain extent, the president himself and the whole of the government, they just have to look at the issue and try and resolve it amicably. We're only 5 days away from the election, and it's critical that as people go into the polls, everything is in order from that perspective. It would be worrying if we go to the polls with these particular accusations that are rising from the opposition party. We need a free and fair election. The government, the president, and everybody else, he said it himself. The voice of the people is the voice of God. So those are the issues that are quite critical to this particular election. And above all, people of Zimbabwe need peace, they need progress, they need a stable economy. And for that to happen, we need to gain international confidence so that we can have FDI. People can start getting interested in investing in the country. So these issues have to be fixed before the time for the polls arrives.
And yet, Anele, according to Nelson Chamisa at least, we haven't heard any kind of pulling back from Emmerson Mnangagwa of him speaking to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission around these issues that are still facing the country, as you say, just 5 days ahead of those elections. Polling officers, their identities, their source have yet to be confirmed. Ballot papers, how many have been printed, who printed them, those details are still not forthcoming.
Well, it's good that they are raising the issues before then. A few days ago, the president was speaking about that, you know what, there are procedures that have to be followed. If any party, whether it's ZANU-PF or MDC or AFP or whichever party, they can take the matter to court as an agent application and have these issues threshed out there. I'm not sure whether bringing this whole issue to the media space will help the situation. There is a need for them to follow the procedure, to follow what has to be done according to the Constitution. If you've aggrieved and if you're not happy about what's happening currently, you raise it through the courts, and I think a decision can be made there. I think it's only fair for the party that now they've done their media briefing, they can get their legal team and go straight to court and challenge those issues in a proper manner.
Now, it wasn't too long ago that Morgan Tsvangirai was caught up in this stolen election saga in Zimbabwe. Anele, are you hopeful that we won't see a repeat of the situation that unfolded in those elections?
I'm hopeful that we are going to go into a free and fair election. I'm hopeful that the government, the sitting president, and everybody else will hold themselves accountable to their words that this is going to be a free and fair election. That's what I'm counting on. Look, there's a bigger picture to this than the whole political fracas that we are looking at currently. The bigger issue is that the people of Zimbabwe need a working economy. They need stability. They need security. They need to be assured that they'll get jobs. So this cannot be the issue that should stand in the way of those things happening. So it's important that everybody who is participating in this election understands that it's not about them, it's about the people of Zimbabwe at the end of the day. The economy has to stabilize. People want to go back home from the diaspora, and investors want to come in and invest. They need a stable and secure environment where they know that they're going to get returns on investment and security of investment. So there's a larger picture to this. The whole international community is in Zimbabwe. They are watching this. And it's the first time that we're having an election where obviously there's little or no violence, but we also want a free and fair election that allows everybody to vote for who they want. As per the word of the president, he has given it himself. And I think people should just put their self-interest aside and focus on getting the country back on track.
And before we let you go, let's talk a bit more around this issue of Zimbabwe's economy. I mean, some analysts saying that the country is in fact going through its worst economic patch since 2009. That's in contrast to what Emmerson Mnangagwa has put out to the media. He's talked about millions heading back to Zimbabwe. You remember he gave officials that deadline to return money to the country that had been taken out of Zimbabwe illegally. That's in contrast to what analysts are saying, though.
Yes. Basically, we have seen quite a big resistance when it comes to people who have actually expatriated funds, illegally out of the country, returning them. And he had promised that he was going to name and shame them, and he did exactly that. I think I saw a whole list of companies that had actually taken money out of the country who refused to return the money, which is a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a challenge. Right now, talking about the worst part of the economy, yes, there is a big problem. The cash crunch situation, people can't access their cash. People can't expatriate their profits as they want to. And it's difficult to tell an investor to come to invest if they can't get their money out. Those are the major challenges right now that all the leadership should be focusing on. Those things need to be fixed. Yes, there is a big challenge on the ground. People can't access their cash, the issue of salaries, the issue of which currency to use and all that kind of stuff. Those things need to be dealt with. Those are the urgent issues currently. As we go to the polls, it's extremely important, as I'm saying, that we need to get out of that space where people don't look at their own gains or look at the issues of just staying in control and in power, but rather the interest of the people on the ground, because that's what surpasses everything else that anyone wishes to achieve.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for your time. Anele Ndlovu is from the Zimbabwe-South Africa Forum, talking to us about the various challenges in Zimbabwe as we count down to those elections, 5 days until the 30th of July when Zimbabwe goes to the polls.